This episode of Own the Grey is brought to you by I Am. Discover your unique talents, realize your potential, and align to your path. Take the first step to uncover your life purpose by visiting debrajones.ca/courses. Hi, it's Debra Jones, podcast host of Own the Grey. Whether you're thinking about aging in place, or you need to sell your home and find somewhere to rent, or you're helping a parent to decide, you'll be interested in listening to this episode. Do you remember the Golden Girls? The TV sitcom of the 80s with Bea Arthur and Betty White, who just celebrated her 100th birthday, by the way. They were 4 seniors sharing a house, sharing their dreams, and a whole lot of cheesecake. And maybe you knew this, but they came to be living together because Blanche posted an ad on a grocery store bulletin board for a room she wanted to rent out. And Rose and Dorothy answered it. And the rest is history, or herstory. Well, did you know that there's an easier way for a homeowner and a housemate to find each other? It's through an online database appropriately called Golden Girls Canada. The website is a solution to a need identified by Dorothy Mazeau, a realtor who specializes in helping older adults find the perfect living situation. And today, she's joining me to tell us about how it works. Welcome, Dorothy.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm glad to be here.
So I read on your website an article about 5 million spare bedrooms. That's how many spare rooms there are in Ontario alone. And you go on to demonstrate just how much that storage room is costing you. Can you share that with us?
Sure, happy to. Just to give you an example, is supposing you have, even if you have one spare room in your house that perhaps your son or daughter used to live in, and now they've moved on. If just to give it in simple numbers, supposing your house is 2,000 square feet, and supposing your monthly costs for mortgage, taxes, utilities, all the costs surrounding owning a house are about $2,000. That would work out to about $1 per square foot of your house. And if that's bedroom where your son or daughter used to live is, say, it's 10 by 12 feet, that's 120 square feet, that is $120 a month that you're paying for that space.
Not a very cost-effective way of storing things.
No, and consider if you have 2 or 3 spare bedrooms, maybe it has your kids' stuff in it, or maybe you've used it to store the extra stuff that you have that you don't know what to do with. But it's storage space, basically, and that's a lot to be spending for storage space.
It is. And so you being a senior real estate specialist, what are you seeing in today's market?
Well, when I'm working with my senior clients who want to downsize, and I'm seniors, anyone really over 40 or 50, whenever they feel like it's time to make a change, really, as soon as they try to downsize, they're really up against the first-time buyer market because they're both looking for the same product, a smaller home that's in an affordable range. So by the time they find something they could live in, it probably is not that much different between what they can sell their house for, which was often their biggest investment. So if you're thinking, well, I'll downsize and have all this money left over to support me as I age in place, then it's not going to be that much money. And the alternative, one alternative many people look at is the retirement homes that cost between $3,000 to $5,000 plus a month. And if you need additional care, it goes up from there. And a lot of people are finding that, number one, they may not have the resources they need to move in there once they've talked to the staff at the facility. And number two, they may outlive their income and say they reach age 95 and suddenly they've used up their resources and they're told by the staff, I'm sorry, you've got to find another place to live. You can't stay here. And that's a heck of a predicament to be in by the time you reach an age when you really need to be settled. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, the rental accommodations are pretty hard to come by. And so it's not easy. And I realized when I was considering this that I was living the solution, because I have been living in shared homes myself for more than 20 years, and I've enjoyed it. It's a great way to live.
Wow. So it's tried and tested.
Indeed. They haven't all been perfect, but I've learned along the way, and I'm pretty well housebroken now, as I say.
Well, there's different kinds of sharing out there, isn't there? There's co-housing, there's co-ownership, there's house sharing. What's the difference?
Well, they're all different ways of sharing. Co-housing was brought to North America around the 1970s from Denmark, and that model is basically developing a community. It's the people that want to live there get together and become really developers of their own community, and they decide what it's going to look like and what's going to be included. But it is primarily individual residences with extensive shared common facilities, which often include a commercial kitchen or a common kitchen, but each one has their own kitchen as well, so they can have as much community or as much privacy as they want. And it's really a development project. It's costly, it takes a long time, people need a lot of patience, and it really tests the bounds of your relationship with your people you're working with. It can work a lot more on the West Coast than in Ontario, although recently there are some in Ontario that are trying again, and I certainly wish them well. But co-ownership, that and the other forms of co-housing really are not co-housing, but home sharing are a single house which can be co-owned by the people that want to live there, as is the case with the 4 women in Port Perry who bought a home together back a number of years ago, who call themselves the Golden Girls of Port Perry. And they each sold their own house for whatever they sold it for, pooled their resources, and bought it was a century home which they renovated and added to accommodate the 4 of them. So they each have their own generous bed sitting room with washroom and a shared kitchen. They actually have 2 dishwashers in their kitchen because one of their agreements was they didn't want any dirty dishes left out anytime. So one is for the dirty dishes and one is for the clean dishes. But they decided that amongst themselves. And as it happens, I think their monthly cost, including their mortgage, I'm not sure if they have a mortgage, but their taxes, insurance, even their groceries, even their wine, I think it comes to about $1,500 each a month. So it's a phenomenally affordable way to live, and they are really enjoying their time together. So that's co-ownership. And they very generously shared with me the ownership agreement, which their lawyer had drafted for them. And I can't share that, but I used it to back out the list of questions that people need to ask in order to create a co-ownership agreement that will work for their situation, which they then would take to a lawyer and have a lawyer review it, of course, but I can get them started on it. And then there is home sharing the way my website works, which is one person owns the home and they would like to stay there. Perhaps they're on their own. They love their neighborhood. There's so much they love about where they are. And it's a lot to manage sometimes for people, whether it's just doing the day-to-day maintenance or expensive repairs, anything like that. And there are so many people that are looking for an affordable place to live. And yes, you can earn extra income from renting out your spare rooms and having the companionship that goes with that. But it's also a benefit to the people who are looking, because an average senior is earning somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 a year. And they say you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your after-tax income on housing. And that would only be about $700 a month, which is, you cannot find anything to rent for that little that's anywhere near decent. And even if you spend half of your income, it's still, $1,000 or $1,200. And it's hard to find anything more than a basic bachelor apartment for that.
Yeah.
So it's a benefit for both sides. And it is really more about just the financial benefits. It's the companionship benefits. And that's why I sometimes refer to my website as almost like a dating site, because so much of it is about the relationship. It's not just about finding a room to live in. It's a place where you'll feel comfortable and where you can both feel at home. Or even really, I think 3 or 4 people is ideal, because then there's always a nice dynamic of, people can share with each other in different ways.
Yeah. And so the way you've set it up, so a bit like a dating app, but there's lots of questions for people to answer so that you can really get a sense of sharing who you are and what your expectations are, and also of sharing what you expect from a housemate. What kinds of questions do you ask?
Well, there's the basic ones, which are really check marks, which is, do you allow alcohol in your home? This is for the homeowner listing. What about smoking? Pets? Do you have pets? Will you welcome pets? And things like, are you near public transportation? Some people need that. Do you have parking? Some people need that. And internet, a lot of people, especially if they're still working, they may need good internet service. Some people would prefer to live in the country. So if you're a rural or suburban or urban location, but those are the easy ones to just check off. But also there's up to 500 words where you can write about what you're like, how you like to live, your lifestyle, and also up to 500 words about your home and what you're sharing, or on the other side, what you're looking for. And to support that, there is on the website a number of member resources. One of them is a questionnaire called How Do You Like to Live? And on that, it covers everything from whether do you like to entertain a lot? Do you want your home to be a refuge from the storm and very kept quiet? Do you have the TV on all the time, or do you like it have it silenced? Do you travel a lot? Are you away a lot? Are you home a lot? And how do you use the kitchen? And if you have a kitchen that you're sharing, do you want to share your meals with people, or do you want to totally keep it separate? And all of these things are perfectly wonderful options for different people, but it's a question of finding people that share that. And truly, with dating sites, people actually get married that meet on dating sites. So there's no reason you can't find a perfectly wonderful, compatible person to share your home with you.
Yeah, I think the key is in those questions. I mean, when you're just sharing some of those, we don't usually think about them until we have to find an answer. And yeah, the way you live your life, you certainly don't want someone who's living circumstances are totally opposite to yours. So I could see the validity of being able to go through a database and really see what you're getting.
Mm-hmm. And that's, again, just the first step, because then you can email someone through the website, and then you compare. There's always what you have to have and what you can't possibly live with. And you have to make sure you're both clear on that before you even take the next step. And then eventually you can talk and have conversations. There's so much involved. And especially during COVID, you might not want to be visiting people's houses, but you can do so much just on Zoom or getting to know people. And then when you can meet face to face, you're already halfway there.
Yeah. So COVID, it's really a time for people to feel isolated, and maybe having some companionship would ease that burden a little bit. Do you find that that's a big deal for people?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people that are living alone are so used to being able to go out in the community to play bridge or to go golfing or to do whatever people do with their friends. And suddenly here you are just by yourself in your home. And yes, you can Zoom and you can do phone calls, but it's just not the same. I mean, I'm so grateful that I live in a home with two other people. It's a couple who are in their early 80s, very healthy, able-bodied. They beat me to the shoveling today. I didn't even get to go out and help the shoveling. But they're there, and somebody knows your home. Supposing something did happen to me, I know there's somebody that would realize it. That is just that's the safety part of it too. That's an important aspect. It's just a natural, simple way to be. I can shut upstairs and say good morning and so forth.
Living together in harmony with the people that you're living with.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing to think about is, as we get older and when we retire, and the government does give a little bit of money, but by doing something like this and helping yourself, you're not waiting to be helped, are you? It's more of a, jump in and direct your own life kind of situation, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That I think in that same article, what I read about the 5 million spare bedrooms, so I wrote about it, but of course I discovered that myself in another article. And someone pointed out that 5 million spare bedrooms is equal to about 24 years worth of affordable housing construction. So if we're waiting for the government to build the housing for us, we may be long gone by the time it's actually there. Not to mention the cost to the government, and not to mention the impact on the environment, which is another advantage to sharing a home, because you have a smaller footprint on the earth if that's something that's important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that idea. And so when do you find that people start thinking about this, and is that the right time?
I think there's another blog on my website about, are you riding the wave or are you wiping out? And I have had calls from women in particular who say, oh, this would be perfect for my mother. But really, if she is asking on behalf of her mother, is her mother still able-bodied and self-directed and able to make her own decisions, or does she need help at this point? And there are agencies which will match someone that needs help with a younger person to come in and perhaps for lower rent, help around the house. But that's not a peer-to-peer relationship. That's someone that needs help, and probably that person will change over time. Whereas, I'm looking more at peer matching. And so I really encourage people, like the woman who asked about her mother, I would say, well, what about you? Maybe she's married and with a partner, maybe she's not. She could be 55, her mother's 75, but it's start early. I know women that, sit around, have a glass of wine with their friends and say, wouldn't it be great if we had a house together? And it's like, so what's stopping you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hear that a lot too.
Oh, it is not impossible, especially if you own a house and your mortgage is either paid off or very low. You have equity in your home that you could invest if you want to purchase together. And as a realtor, again, I'm happy to do that with people. But if you want to stay where you are, maybe you have friends that could sell their house and either rent from you, or you could perhaps sell them a share in your home. There's different ways you can work that with a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, don't wait. Again, I've been sharing homes since my son was small. And when he went through his adolescence with 3 adult women in the house. And when I met his fiance's father, he said to me, your son's the best thing that ever happened to my daughter. So you can't hurt him too much.
It's going back to that, it takes a community to rear a child, right? When you get together and your child has the best of all the advice from not just his mother, and often with children, we don't want to listen to our parents, but
that's true. Yeah. And, we have lived with other families with children as well. And that's a dynamic you have to be careful with, because you have to have similar ideas about child rearing and so forth, which can still work. It can still work. But you just have to be aware of that and be willing to work with that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. So as a real estate agent, I mean, you've got the bird's eye view of this whole scenario. You get to hear people's concerns and what they need, and I presume that's why you started Golden Girls Canada, so that you could fill a need.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, because I was puzzling over this whole situation. And that's what I say. I realized I was living the answer to it. This is a good answer, and not for everybody. Some people are just folks that just want to live by themselves, or
well, we're all different, aren't we?
Everyone is different, and there are these various options, and this is one which I think is really a good one.
And so when somebody goes to the website, I took a look at it myself. You can actually take a little look and see if there's anybody in your area. And I know the database is growing. It's a fairly new database. Yeah. But I wonder what are the benefits of the membership, and what is the membership?
Yeah. Well, most people who join are either people with homes that they would like to share, or people that are looking. And what you see in the little thumbnails, which you were able to look at, is what area this person is in and how much they are looking to charge for rent, or how much they are able to pay for rent. And then, but in order to actually access those people and contact them, you would need to become a member. And once you become a member, you have access to their full profile with their full 500-word description, if it's that much, about them, who they are, and an equal amount really about their home or what they're looking for. Also, you have access to the member resources, including the checklist that I mentioned about how do you like to live, and information on what to do when someone responds, about how to go through the process of interviewing them and doing reference checks and that kind of thing. There is an organization which you can access through my site that does background checks for people if you want. And it's free for the homeowner. I think for a police check, it's $25 for the person who wants to come in. But think so. You want to be wise. You want to be safe. And there's also the checklist, both for a home sharing agreement and also for a co-ownership agreement, which you can use to help draft your own document. But again, I can help with that if people wish to retain me to do that. Or they could go to their lawyer, and in any case, eventually they should take something to their lawyer. But the further along you can get before you take it to the lawyer, the less it's going to be cost for the lawyer to review it for you. So, yeah. And I've also launched a forum now, so people who are members can go on the forum and chat with each other. But that's brand new, so that hasn't really taken off yet. And I'm thinking of ways to expand it to make it even more beneficial. So I'm open for ideas if people have them, because whether I might start doing meetups and have people invite members to come to a meetup and meet each other, so it's really community oriented.
Yeah, I think that's great. So what is your vision for Golden Girls Canada?
Yeah, well, I guess I kind of touched on it here. I'm looking for ways that it can become a real resource for people that want to live in community. And I'm connected with all the different ways of doing this, like the Co-Housing Association and so forth. I can help people that way. And again, the database is one part of the site, but the rest of it with the blogs and so forth. But just to become a resource for community living, for people sharing together. And it's sort of ironic, I realize, to say community living, and you think of these group homes, like people with special needs that live in a group home. But community is all of us, we all need community in our lives.
Yeah, more so than ever these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so you've got some great ideas that are on your website, but you also do some ongoing workshops and webinars and things like that. And you do have one coming up on March 13th, if somebody is interested. And I guess they go to your website to sign up. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's called A Golden Solution to Your Housing Crunch. And this is really about how to do home sharing. And I do these workshops once a month, actually on the second Saturday of every month at this point. I usually have about 3 months at a time posted on the website, so you can choose one. But it costs about $50 for the webinar, and it's a good, well, depending how many people come, it can be 2 or 3 hours. I've had as many as 7 or 8 people. Sometimes I do it one-on-one, and that's usually shorter, but it's just a wonderful conversation. And a lot of the resources that are available to members are also available through the workshops. And then also I do presentations for community groups, for Rotary clubs, or university women's clubs, or I'm doing one for the town of Newmarket, which that is for free. It's like a 15 or 20-minute PowerPoint presentation, which leaves about another 40 minutes for questions and discussion and so forth. And that's just to spread the word about the idea, because it is a paradigm shift for people to begin to think about living this way. And, don't put it off. This isn't something you need to wait until you're in a dire situation, because by then you can't be as careful about who you're choosing to live with, because you're making a decision in a rush. And that's just not what this is about.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that it's a phenomenal idea. It's certainly timely. You're right. I've heard a lot of girls getting together and saying, "Wouldn't this be fun if we were living together?" And I've even imagined it myself. And but where do we start? And I guess going to your website is where you start, and to ask questions and get a feel for it. As you said, it's not for everyone, but if it is for you, then you've got a lot of experience in helping people find the perfect solution, I would think.
Yeah, and the workshop, I will stress too, is not just for the homeowners and the people looking. It's also for people that want to co-purchase together too. It's a good resource for them. Like if you have a group of friends already that want to do this, I'd be happy to even arrange to have a workshop just for the group of you to help you go through the process of what to think about. Because one thing I do remind people is you may love your friends dearly and respect them, but your life size might be different enough that you drive each other crazy. You're trying to live together. So it's good to find that out before you go too far.
Before you've actually jumped, yes. For sure. If people need to get in touch with you, they'll go to the website. There's a way to contact you on your website, and that's goldengirlscanada.ca. And I presume that they can contact you if they've got any questions as well?
Absolutely. Happy to talk. I always love to talk about this.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us, Dorothy. I really appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. If you like what you've heard and want to hear more, please subscribe, leave a comment and a rating, and I promise to send good vibes your way. This episode of Own the Grey is brought to you by I Am. Discover your unique talents, realize your potential, and align to your path. Take the first step to uncover your life purpose by visiting debrajones.ca/courses.